Hello everyone, and welcome to Sleep Triggers ASMR. You're about to enter a world where horror whispers gently in the dark. Where shadows tell stories, and the rain keeps you company. Tonight's tale will guide you through fear, softly wrapped in sound. Don't worry, you're safe here with me. Let the unease comfort you, and let each sound pull you deeper into rest. If you enjoy these immersive horror sleep experiences, please like, subscribe, and tap the so you'll never miss a night. I'll be here, waiting, every night, to tell you another story. Now, close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And let the story begin. The Cat's Song. Lin Guizhong kept a tawny-colored female cat. When the cat first arrived, it was no larger than the palm of his hand. But under Lin's care, fed daily with small Prussian carp, it grew steadily, from palm size to the length of a foot, then 2 feet, until it ballooned into a plump, full-grown cat. Soon, the cat gave birth to a litter of kittens. Living alone, Lin adored the 3 new additions just as much. All 4 cats would bask on the windowsill each day, and the moment Lin returned from work, they'd line up neatly to greet him. Like their mother, the kittens loved fish. But after Lin once played Dongfengpe, a melancholic ballad, at home, the cats became obsessed. Whenever the song played, the kittens would spin in circles chasing their tails, always drawing laughter from Lin. Lin truly loved cats. Though frugal with himself, he spared no expense on toys and food for them. Had it not been for the disaster that followed, Lin and his cats might have lived on peacefully. He might have raised generations of their offspring, tending to each until their final days. Then a plague swept the city. Officially termed an infectious disease, it was a true pestilence. Victims developed pale yellow stripes resembling cat fur. As often happens during outbreaks, animals paid the price. Strays were slaughtered openly, and even cherished pets were abandoned or buried alive. At first, Lin refused to harm his cats. He bathed them, fed them, and played Dongfengpe for their dances as usual. But the situation worsened. Cases emerged at his workplace. Suspected infections were reported in his neighborhood. Fear thickened the air. A man in the building across the street, driven by panic, hurled his beloved dog from the 7th floor. It died instantly. Lin witnessed the dog's final moments. He stared at its twitching body, then glanced up to see the owner weeping 7 stories above. Thinking of his own cats, Lin's chest tightened, tears spilling down his face. Returning home, he stroked the cat's glossy fur and sighed deeply, once, twice. He thought of his aging parents in the countryside, relying on his monthly remittances. He thought of being unmarried at 30. He thought of his hard-earned promotion and raise. He thought of everything but the cats now squirming at his feet. Their purrs and whisker-brushed affection faded from his senses. Chain-smoking, he finally grabbed a large burlap sack. The kittens, naive and trusting, licked his hands as he dropped them inside. The mother cat hesitated, paws pressing against his arm. "Be good," he coaxed gently. Hearing his familiar voice, the cat relented and crawled into the sack. For cats, light yet heavy with life. Lynn carried the sack in one hand, a bottle of liquor in the other. After gulping a third of the alcohol, he staggered into the woods. He dug a pit, but upon sprinkling the first handfuls of soil, anguish overwhelmed him. He retrieved the sack. Drunk and unresolved, he boarded a near-empty train. Releasing the cats in the carriage, he watched them explore. As Dongfunpa played through the speakers, the kittens danced, just as the train entered the ancient forest. Legends claimed this woodland swallowed all who ventured beyond the tracks. Even following the rails led to oblivion. The song swelled. The kittens twirled. The mother cat purred contentedly. Lin's cigarette burned low. Suddenly, he crushed the butt, drained the liquor, and in one fluid motion, hurled the kittens through the window. The train's speed whipped them into the forest's embrace before they could react, tiny paws still paddling mid-air to the music. The mother cat lunged for the window, but Lin seized her scruff. Drunk, remorseful, he clung to this last living tether. When soberness returned, their shared gaze spoke volumes. He spared her. The plague eventually subsided. Pets regained their freedom. The mother cat now roamed daily, wailing mournfully from dawn till dusk. Lin carved a cat door for her. He knew she searched for her kittens. He too secretly combed the forest's edge from train windows, never daring to disembark. Nights found the cat staring vacantly from the windowsill. Then one midnight, Dongfunpa played again. Had he left the TV on? Heart pounding, he crept to the living room. Beneath the light, claw marks circled the floorboards, ghosts of kitten dances passed. Now the mother cat spun alone, etching fresh grooves, her voice keening the song's melody. "Cat," he whispered, trembling. She turned, eyes brimming with desolation, and sang. Lin fled to bed, smothering his ears. But the cat's song permeated every night, reaching his vision into a blurry haze. When advised to get a guide dog, he insisted, "I have my cat." True to her word, she navigated him through labyrinthine streets. "I'll care for you till the end," he often vowed, stroking her fur. She watched him with fathomless grief. One twilight, they wandered an unfamiliar road. Dongfunpa suddenly blared from a nearby house. Man and cat froze, weeping openly. "You'd never abandon me," Lin mumbled through tears. The cat stiffened. Meeting his gaze one final time, the last clear sight he'd ever known, she vaulted a wall and vanished. "Cat! Cat!" Panic-stricken, Lin stumbled blindly, muling through alleys until collapsing days later. He died with a faint smile, facing the forest. 100 steps past one final turn, his home awaited. The River of Infants. The white river flowed silently, its surface unbroken by ripples as it wound through the mountains before merging with the Yangtze. Mu Hua rowed his boat to the center and cast his net with practiced ease. The net sank slowly, and when he hauled it up moments later, only a few grass carp thrashed inside. He sighed. These days, the river's bounty had dwindled. Once, every cast glittered with silver. Now, a dozen fish in a day was considered lucky. At dusk, he docked, hung his net on the shore's rack, and carried his meager catch home. Smoke curled from the kitchen where his mother cooked, while his father smoked on the doorstep. "Where's sister-in-law?" Mu Hua asked. His father gestured indoors with his pipe. Inside, his sister-in-law lay half-reclined on the bed, cradling her child. The infant's face was bluish-purple, eyes shut tight. A faint rot lingered in the air. Mu Hua turned on the light. "Sister-in-law, let him go," he murmured. "I'll hold him a little longer," she replied tonelessly. Mu Hua retreated, selecting the largest fish to clean. His father stared down the road, waiting for Mu Jie, the eldest son. Darkness thickened like smoke. When Mu Jie finally emerged from the gloom, his father tapped out his pipe. "Get it done," he said. Mu Jie entered his room. His wife, Hua Ying, clutched their lifeless son, plump, with a vermilion birthmark between his brows. He pried the child from her arms. "Let's go." The family walked to the riverbank in silence. Under the moon, the white river shimmered, its depths cradling countless infant souls. Mu Jie stripped the tiny body and waded into the water, chest deep. Hua Ying kissed the child one last time before passing him through the men's hands. Mu Jie submerged the stiffened form, releasing it into the current. 5 years. 5 years since the first stillbirth, since the riverbed turned bone white. Once fertile, the village now withered. 1,000 households had dwindled to 400. Tests revealed nothing. Tradition demanded unbaptized infants rest in the river, not earth. And so they came, year after year, tiny bodies sinking, staining the river pale. "Brother, let's go home," Mu Hua's voice cut through Mu Jie's thoughts. They returned to a supper of milky fish soup, its whiteness mirroring the riverbed. 10 days later, miracles erupted. Fish leaped in silver torrents, filling nets until boats groaned. The village rejoiced. But by dusk, Hua Ying found their storehouse floating with lifeless fish, bellies upturned like dead stars. At the riverbank, a putrid stench choked the air. The white river had become a tomb, its surface paved with scales, no water visible beneath. For 3 days, villagers labored to clear the rot. When finished, the river ran clear once more, empty as a barren womb. The white river flowed on. So did the village. But like its women, the waters bore no life. The water ghosts. The white river's edge lay quiet under the summer sun. Here, where the riverbed sloped gently with pebbles, the water ran clear and shallow, waist-deep for adults. Each evening, villagers bathed here, skilled swimmers venturing toward deeper currents. That dusk began like any other. Laughter echoed as children splashed. Smoke from cooking fires drifted over the banks. No one noticed the boy swimming too far out, until his scream pierced the air. Help! Something's pulling me. Men surged toward the thrashing water. Mouhua reached first, grabbing a fistful of floating hair. It tore free, roots and all. The boy sank deeper. Mouhua dove, glimpsing through crystalline water, small, infantile hands clamped on the child's ankle, dragging him down. Water ghosts. He wrenched the boy loose, passing him to others. Below, the white riverbed bristled with tiny hands, fingers splayed like claws. Get out! Ghosts below, he roared. On shore, the boy's ankle bore a purple handprint, infant-sized. Days later, Mujia pressed his brother. You saw baby hands. They glanced at Hua-ing, their sister-in-law, her face tightening at the word infant. Silent, the brothers wandered to the desolate river. No fish. No swimmers. They rowed a boat to the center, oars slicing translucent water. Sunlight pierced the emptiness, casting their lonely shadows onto the bone-white bed. A splash. A shadow thrashed. A baby's face surfaced, chubby hands grasping air. I'll save it. Mu Jie plunged in before Mu Hua could shout, it's a ghost. The infant's sharp-toothed grin flashed. Translucent claws latched onto Mu Jie's wrist. Red bloomed in the water. Mu Hua dove. Below, the white riverbed bubbled. Dozens of infant heads emerged, dragging Mu Jie into the silt. His body half vanished, bubbles bursting from his mouth in silent screams. Mu Hua swam frantically, fingertips brushing the riverbed, and sinking into viscous whiteness. This wasn't sand. Thick, milky water swallowed him. Tiny claws and teeth tore at his skin. A net yanked him skyward. Villagers hauled him aboard, bleeding and gasping. Where's my brother? The river churned crimson and pale. Chen Kai, his rescuer, muttered, we saw a shadow, the child chewed through the net. Not a child, Mu Hua whispered. He thrust a bamboo pole into the water. 2 meters down, the clear current gave way to milky swirls. A plump hand gripped the pole. A baby's face rose, black eyes fixed on them. The men froze. Somewhere beneath, the white river's second layer churned, a hungry womb of teeth and ghosts. The hungry ghost infants. He glanced around. The small boat was surrounded by clear river water. How many man-eating infants lurked beneath the milky surface of Bai River? He dared not dwell on it. Go back, he shouted, grabbing an oar to row frantically. Wang Xiaoshan and Chen Pai said nothing, joining him in paddling furiously toward shore. Bai River remained eerily calm. The infants hidden beneath its pale waters did not reappear. Neither did his brother, Mu Jie. Only upon reaching land did Mu Hua realize he no longer had an elder brother. How would he face home? He sat by the riverbank for hours. When he finally returned, lunch had gone cold. His father, mother, and sister-in-law Huang stared at him with 6 piercing eyes, then peered past him expectantly. "Where's your brother?" Huang demanded. He swallowed hard. The afternoon dissolved into tears, wails, then tomb-like silence. Family members tiptoed through doors as if fearing to wake the dead. Did he have a red birthmark? Huang suddenly asked. Who? Mu Hua blinked. She fixed him with grief-stricken eyes sunken beneath wrinkled brows. He remembered that same look from years ago, the night her son died during childbirth. The plump baby boy had borne a vermilion red mark between his eyebrows. Had he lived, he might have grown handsome. Recalling the river's horrors, Mu Hua shook his head with grim relief. No. None of those things had birthmarks. At least his brother hadn't fallen to his own flesh and blood. Let's go. Father Mu Shixiang shouldered hook ropes and marched out. Others followed. Multiple boats patrolled by river, casting nets and grappling hooks. Mu Jie's body remained elusive. Gurgled. A bubble surfaced. An infant emerged from the milky depths, eel-like body writhing upward through clearer water. Everyone saw it. It turned bulbous eyes toward Mu Hua, bared sharp teeth in a grin. Mu Hua froze. The infant dove, vanishing as swiftly as it appeared. It's got me. Chen Pai screamed, half leaning overboard as tiny hands gripped his submerged arm. Oars struck water as boats converged. The infant released its hold, swimming leisurely away. Gurgle. Gurgle gurgle. Bubbles multiplied. Infant heads breached surface after surface, tender bodies swarming beneath boats. They can't leave the water. Keep hands dry. Mu Shixiang barked. Crunch. The ominous sound of teeth gnawing wood. They're eating the hulls. Pandemonium erupted. Oars churned like windmills toward shore. Crunch crunch crunch. Infants leaped, razor teeth shearing flesh from cheeks. Screams and blood misted air as boats fled. By river became a death water. No soul dared cross it. The infants floated day and night, keening hunger from translucent depths. Their wails haunted the village, itching beneath skins. What are they crying for? Mu Hua muttered, watching distant ripples. They're hungry, Huang said tonelessly, retreating indoors. Hungry indeed, but for blood, not milk. When a dog trotted riverside, infant heads swiveled in unison. One crawled ashore, pounced before the animal could react, fangs sinking into its throat. Others swarmed. Villagers witnessed the fleshy massacre through cracks in shuttered windows. Days later, Mu Hua awoke to crunching at his window. Behind the glass, an infant gnawed the frame. He grabbed a hoe and charged outside. The infant dodged clumsily on land. Mu Hua's hoe gashed its arm. It collapsed, gasping, face purpling into death, or whatever passed for death in creatures born deceased. Authorities erected barbed wire barriers. Still, infants chewed through. Soldiers shot escapees. Starving whales redoubled. A white-haired expert arrived at the refugee camp. Years of industrial pollution had transformed by rivers' depths into a heavy, milky layer beneath clear surface water. Fish avoided the poison until 5 years prior, when the taint penetrated upper waters. Villagers drank it, ate contaminated fish. Their children adapted to toxic amniotic fluid, entering suspended animation at birth. Thrown into the river, bees stillborn revived in the familiar poison, growing gills while human lungs atrophied. They fed on aquatic life, until pollution killed even that. Desperation drove them ashore. Those monsters are our children, a villager whispered. The expert nodded. Whales erupted. Parents rushed the barricades, screaming childhood nicknames: Debale, Bebe, Boozy. Adult grief fused with infant hunger. Dark clouds gathered as soldiers trembled with rifles. By river seethed. Remnant clear water vanished, leaving pure milk white. Infants retreated. Blood and viscera bubbled up. Unearthly shrieks drowned all else. They're eating each other, the expert rasped. Mothers clawed at wire mesh. Soldiers stood paralyzed as bloodied infants wriggled through gaps. Parents spread arms indiscriminately. Fangs met embracing flesh. Gunfire crackled. 3 days later, by river ran quiet and empty. Blood had washed seaward. Returning home, Mu Hua's family heard laughter, Hua Ying's, and infant giggles. Behind the house, in the fish pool, swam a chubby baby with a vermilion birthmark. Hua Ying blissfully tossed at fish. My son's home, she smiled. The fog child. Outside the window was a dense fog, obscuring everything. It never lifted. From the day I arrived, I saw nothing but fog. Long ago, on another foggy night, I walked alone down the street. Had I just finished a night shift? Or was I returning from meeting friends? It's been too long, I can't remember. All I recall are the tendrils of mist, rising from every corner of the street like wisps of cotton, merging and thickening until my vision blurred. The night was deep, the silence absolute. Only my footsteps echoed, muffled and dulled by the fog. I fumbled for my flashlight, its beam barely pierced a foot ahead. The gray haze clung to my skin, cold and damp. I was already uneasy when I heard it, a child's low, trembling cry. My hair stood on end. I quickened my pace, but a small, grubby hand seized my coat. My heart pounded. Shining the light downward, I saw a boy's tear-streaked face floating in the mist. I can't see the way, he whimpered. Irritated yet unable to abandon him, I gripped his hand. Why are you out so late? He sniffled, claiming his home was nearby. He'd been at a friend's house. The walk usually took 2 minutes, but the fog had trapped him. 2 minutes, I asked. He nodded vigorously. I'll take you home, I said, letting him leave. He wiped his tears and smiled. He clung to my hand as we stumbled forward. The ground grew uneven. My flashlight revealed nothing but swirling gray. Unease prickled my neck. Each time I asked if we were close, he insisted, almost there. 2 minutes passed. Then another. And another. We kept walking. I halted, sensing something wrong. The fog clung stubbornly, and a frigid wind seeped from the right, carrying the stench of moss and decay. This was impossible. The right side of the street was a solid wall of buildings, sheltering it from wind. Unless we'd veered off, but we hadn't turned. We should still be on the main road. The wind sharpened, numbing my right side. This wasn't the city. The reek of rot and stagnant water surrounded us. I aimed the flashlight right, its glow drowned in milky haze. Stretching my hand out, I touched nothing. The sidewalk was gone. My shoes sank into squelching mud. Crouching, I saw black sludge caking my feet, pocked with holes where slithering creatures writhed. Where are we? My voice trembled. Almost there, the boy said calmly. I shone the light in his face. His eyes gleamed dark and unblinking. My stomach dropped. We'd walked straight for 15 minutes. This place shouldn't exist. Your home is in a swamp. I tried wrenching my hand free, but his grip tightened, cold and unyielding. Yes, he murmured, lowering his gaze. It's always been like this. Up close, his pallid face was smudged with dirt, hair matted, clothes filthy. He smelled of grass and sweat. A normal child, yet he'd led me into this void. The fog thickened, oozing from his pores. He tugged me onward. I planted my feet. Suddenly, he hissed, "Run," and killed the flashlight. Darkness swallowed us. Footsteps thudded from all sides. Giggles and panting breaths closed in. Small, clawed hands seized my arms, legs, hair, dozens of them, tearing at me. Mine. She's mine, my boy shrieked, battling the swarm. I thrashed, but they were too many. The fog choked my lungs. Then, fighting. Fists thumped. Bones cracked. Screams. Blood tainted the air. A hand yanked mine. "Run," he cried. We fled blindly, trampling soft bodies that wailed beneath us. Behind, the footsteps gave chase. I ran until a pinprick of light glowed ahead. We lunged toward it, bursting into a brightly lit house. Golden wood floors. A sofa. A bar lined with cups. Toys littered the ground. 3 children froze, staring, a wide-eyed girl with cake crumbs, a narrow-eyed girl chewing, and a shy boy. Their clothes were ragged, eyes desperate. "Are you our new mommy?" the wide-eyed girl asked. "What?" Where are your parents? They shook their heads. Be our mommy, my boy pleaded. No. I need to go home. They wailed. The boy, number one, explained, we have no names. Just numbers. Stay, or you'll never leave. The TV flickered. Its screen showed only undulating gray fog. Outside the windows, the mist pressed close. Endless. Hungry. Prisoner of motherhood. I soon realized, the layers of fog outside were exactly what was playing out on TV. This discovery filled me with panic. I couldn't sit still any longer. Glancing at the time, 1 a.m., I had never stayed out this late. I looked at the children. They remained in their original positions. Only child one noticed me. Something was clearly wrong here, but I couldn't pinpoint what. I pulled out my phone to call a friend, but there was no signal. Child one gestured to the bar counter. There's a landline. I stood up to walk over, but he added, it won't work. Ignoring him, I picked up the receiver, no dial tone. When I turned around, 4 pairs of eyes watched me with pity and expectation. I'm leaving, I said, grabbing a flashlight and heading for the door. Don't. Child one rushed to block me. Have you forgotten what happened earlier? Those tiny hands, that laughter. I shuddered, forcing the memory away, and gently pushed him aside to step into the fog. The thick mist felt like a wall. I don't know how I mustered the courage to walk through it. Once inside, everything vanished. The flashlight's beam dimmed to a firefly's glow. When I glanced back, the villa's lights were already gone. I straightened my posture and marched forward, but within steps, sharp little hands seized my arms and legs. Shining the light, I saw pairs of terrified eyes floating in the fog. Again, they began tearing at me, each pulling me in their direction as if to rip me apart. Their strength was small, but the fog itself seemed to paralyze me. Soon I collapsed, tiny feet trampling over me. They fought savagely among themselves, the metallic tang of blood filling the air. Blades flashed in the mist, but they carefully avoided cutting me. Only the cold edge grazed my skin. I froze. Mom, one child cried out. Mom. 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 More voices pleaded in my ears, each dripping with desperation. I covered my ears, clenched my teeth, and curled into a ball. What was happening? A nightmare? Mom! A familiar voice cut through. A small hand aimed the flashlight at his own face, child one. Child 2 and 3 stared at me beside him. It's us. Say yes, child 1 urged. If you don't, we'll all die here. You'll kill everyone. The slaughter grew louder, shrieks, thuds, the wet sound of violence. I had no choice. I nodded. The 3 children clapped joyfully. The chaos ceased as if receding waves. Footsteps scattered in all directions, countless children fleeing into the fog. Their retreat echoed with heavy sighs, disappointment, grief. I was back in the villa. Now I was their mother. What's going on? I asked, sinking into the couch. Their fog children, child 4 whispered, clinging to me. They create the mist. I wanted answers, but exhaustion swallowed us. I lay in bed, the 4 children sprawled around me. We slept. Morning sunlight woke me. The children still slept. I crept to the window and pulled back the curtains. Golden light flooded in. The fog was gone. Without a word, I grabbed my bag and rushed outside. I froze after 2 steps. Sunlight bathed the villa, but beyond its perimeter, the fog loomed like a wall. I stepped into it, instantly plunged into darkness. Before the fog children could attack, I scrambled back inside. Mom! Child 3 stood at the door, clutching a broken comb. Fix my hair. I distractedly tugged at her tangled locks. She winced but smiled at me in the mirror, her happiness gnawing at me. I asked her about this place, but she only repeated, "I'm so glad." After washing and dressing all 4, thunderstruck. The kitchen was empty. Call for food, child 2 suggested. The phone doesn't work, I sighed. Adults can call, she insisted. I picked up the receiver. A raspy female voice answered, "What do you need?" It worked. I ordered breakfast. 2 minutes later, a knock came. A tray of food sat outside, no delivery person in sight. The children begged to play outside. Fearful of the fog, I refused. They reassured me, as their mother, the fog children wouldn't harm me. Hesitantly, I followed them. Where we walked, the fog retreated, sunlight trailing us. The villa was surrounded by a grassy field with playground equipment. While they played, I tried slipping away, but sunlight vanished the moment I left them. Mom! Child 1 panted, grabbing my hand. Don't leave us in the fog. Why? It's sunny. The light dies if we separate, he explained. I understood. I wanted to ask them to take me home, but they'd never agreed. Sunlight was their lifeline. I stayed. I became their mother, cleaning, bathing them, ordering toys and clothes. By day, sunlight followed us. By night, moonlit serenity. It felt like a fairy tale. But I remained a prisoner. I plotted escapes. They were vigilant. Any distance dimmed the light, forcing them to cling to me. The fog's threat paralyzed me. Days blurred. One morning, I called for sleeping pills. That afternoon, I spiked their milk. When they fell asleep, I fled into the fog. My eyes now pierced the mist. I wandered past endless villas, each crammed with children spewing fog from their bodies. Some scavenged garbage, others fought over toys or kidnapped adults. I passed hollow-eyed kids huddled in fog-choked homes. Hunger drove me back. The villa's children hadn't noticed my absence until I began shrinking. My clothes hung loose. Soon I wore child-sized outfits. One day, I saw 5 children in the mirror. The 5th was my 8-year-old self. I'd become a child. Now I was child 5. Without adults, we decayed. We learned to scavenge, steal, and hunt for parents. We huddled in the fog-filled villa, our bodies emitting endless mist. Sometimes we ventured out. Once, I found the edge of the fog, my old city, now foreign. Approaching a man, I whimpered, "I'm lost." He became our father. Then came child 6, 7, 8. The villa swelled with children, the fog thickening. Why do adults become children? I asked child 1. Because everyone's lost and helpless, like children needing care. We now stalk the fog, fighting to claim parents first. We wait for legends, those unbreakable souls who never shrink, who could lead us from this endless mist. We wait. We need to be cared for. The woman in black. When my parents pulled me out of the chaotic brawl among the kids outside, I was covered in dust, still gripping a stick tightly, ready to dive back into the fight. Exasperated by my mischief, they dragged me into the house, washed my hands and face, and ordered me to try on new clothes. "I won't wear it," I said, smoothing my hair, determined to rush back out. Mom yanked me back and forced the clothes onto me as I squirmed in her grip. I had no interest in new outfits. The battle outside was all that mattered. Dad watched me in amused disbelief, clapping his hands and laughing. "Are you a boy or a girl?" I was about to declare myself the fiercest warrior girl when something cold dripped onto the back of my hand. "It's leaking!" I shouted. Mom slapped my hand. "Put on the clothes." "What leak?" Outside the window, the sun blazed brightly, no sign of rain. Another drop fell. I looked up at the dry ceiling, not a single water stain in sight. Yet droplets kept landing on my hand, shimmering faintly in the sunlight as if suspended from an invisible source in the air. "Look!" I pointed at the empty space where the water fell, but my parents ignored me, focused solely on the clothes. Alone, I stared at the mystery above. The droplets tasted salty and bitter, like seawater, I decided solemnly. I'd never seen the ocean, but this was my first impression of it, water conjured from thin air. I was 5. After that, those inexplicable salty droplets appeared often. No one believed me, but I knew something mysterious was happening in my life. One night, our family went for a walk. The moonlit ground cast 4 faint shadows, 2 large ones for my parents, 2 small for my brother and me. I hopped ahead, stomping on the shadows. 1, 2, 3, 4. A droplet fell. I licked it, salt again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait. 5 shadows. The extra one was slender, with wild, flowing hair. I spun around. Behind us, my parents held my brother's hands, gazing at the clouds. No one else stood nearby. The shadow vanished. By Spring Festival, we decided to celebrate quietly at home. Dad cooked a feast. At 7 p.m., after setting off firecrackers, we dug into the meal. My brother and I each got a red envelope. As I opened mine, I felt eyes on us. Half a pale face peered through the window, jet black eyes, wind-tossed hair. I froze. We lived on the 4th floor. By the time I ran to the window, the figure was gone. The street below lay empty, littered with red fireworks scraps. That night, a gust of wind snatched a family photo from my hands, sweeping it under the bed. Reaching for it, my fingers brushed something cold and slender, a hand. I screamed. My parents found nothing, but the dread lingered. For years, I felt watched. As I grew, rebellion clashed with my parents. During one fight, a sigh echoed behind me. Turning, I saw a woman in black, her pale face merging with twilight. She gazed at me sadly, then vanished limb by limb. Mom screamed, having seen her dissolve. We moved, hoping to escape her. But the sensation of being watched never left. Worse, I began to resemble her. Mirrors terrified me. Was I becoming her? Years later, at Dad's deathbed, I fetched water and returned to see a dark silhouette fade from the room. He died smiling. In 2008, Mom left for the Beijing Olympics while I pursued a long-planned journey. Ready? Asked the black uniformed agent in a remote valley. I nodded. It might hurt, he warned. I know, I smiled. We began time traveling. On my lap lay Bruno Baumann's The Desert Journey with No Return, open to his words about the dying Kria River, a metaphor for life itself. We visited my 5-year-old self. Hidden in an invisibility suit, I wept as I watched my young family. My tear fell onto the child's hand, puzzling her. I revisited every cherished moment, sometimes forgetting to hide, sparking my past self's fears. The woman in black had always been me. Our final stop, April 9, 2005. Dad's hospital room. Dad, I whispered. He opened swollen eyes. I hugged and kissed him, stealing his final smile from my 2005 self, who entered as I vanished. No regrets now. Whenever I wish, I can revisit us, or them. Same difference. The craft soared toward 2008 Beijing. The picture man. Perhaps he had appeared many times before, like so many people around me, but all those encounters had gone unnoticed. It wasn't until I was 5 that I truly noticed him. Back then, I was obsessed with UFOs, devouring every piece of information I could find, especially images. Since I couldn't read lengthy texts yet, pictures felt more real, narrated to me by adults. In one issue of UFO Exploration, there was a color illustration, a circular halo of light hovering above a vast plaza. People gathered around a fountain, looking up at the mysterious object in awe. After staring greedily at the UFO, my eyes drifted to the crowd below. How I envied them for witnessing it firsthand. That's when I spotted him. He was impossible to miss. Though positioned at the edge of the frame, half his body cropped out and his torso obscured by the fountain, his expression stood out. Amidst the crowd's shock, he alone smirked at the camera, as if mocking the spectacle above. His playful grimace made me laugh, but a strange, indescribable feeling lingered. Compelled, I cut out his face and pasted it into my sticker album, which was otherwise filled with UFO clippings. Time flew. By the time the album was nearly full, I was almost 6. The lone human face had faded from memory, until I flipped through my mother's fashion magazine. In a photo of a Valentine's Day gala, I recognized him again, this time by the olive-shaped mole on his chin, dotted with a white hair. He wasn't making a face now. Dressed in a tight suit, hair slicked back, he stood near a banquet table, flanked by security guards, his eyes slyly glancing at the camera. Again, I cut him out, earning a spanking from my mother. Over the years, 7, 8, 9, 10, he appeared in scattered images I encountered, aging as I grew. Each time, I added his photo to the album. By 12, he looked 30. The coincidences felt too frequent to ignore. He wasn't a subject of the photos, just a bystander, yet he cropped up in magazines, TV clips, even art exhibits. Was he in every image, unnoticed until now? I began scrutinizing every picture I saw. His presence multiplied, a tiny head in the corner, a blurry figure in the distance. Yet he wasn't omnipresent. Why did I keep finding him? Testing my family, I pointed him out, but they saw nothing unusual. Only my best friend, Shirley, shared my shock when I showed him the album. "This is too weird," he muttered, flipping through pages of the man aging alongside me. We theorized, a model, a stalker, but nothing fit. A visit to my photographer uncle and his mentor deepened the mystery. The old man's hands trembled as he examined the clippings. "This isn't a model," he concluded. "A coincidence, but too many." They photocopied the album, dismissive of further inquiry. Adults, it seemed, had lost their curiosity. Returning home, I dug through family albums. There he was, lurking in backgrounds of my childhood photos, on magazine covers clutched by passers-by, TV screens in the periphery. He'd been haunting my life since birth. Shirley called weeks later, breathless, I found mine. Rushing over, I waded through his floor of scattered images. His picture man was different, a tanned, wrinkled man aging in his photos. We stared at each other, realization dawning. What if everyone had one? A silent, growing shadow tethered to their existence. By 17, our picture men appeared almost daily, nearing 40. We accepted their presence, even as questions festered. What did they mean? Were they real? But as 18 loomed, a darker discovery would unravel our complacency, one we never saw coming. Closing in. With just months left until Shirley turned 18, and then me, the weight of adulthood and the looming college entrance exams pressed down like a suffocating fog. Time felt endless yet fleeting, the air thick with a fermenting dread. Shirley and I huddled in my room, flipping through our scrapbooks. Over the years, they'd swollen into drawers full of aging faces. Our picture men had grown older too, their eyes eerily unchanged. Two revelations struck us simultaneously. It was a Sunday. We'd spread the scrapbooks across the floor, ready to reorganize them chronologically, when the doorbell rang. Shirley stayed crouched among the piles while I answered. A deliveryman handed me a package, beauty books my mother had ordered. Out of habit, I tore off the packaging and flipped through the pages, scanning every image, no matter how small. There he was. My picture man sat in a stadium crowd, face painted with a national flag, eyes fixed on the soccer field. The photo's focus was a sunglasses-clad celebrity behind him, but his face stood out. Clear, sharp. His eyes. My pulse stuttered. Just yesterday, he'd looked normal. Now, his gaze was hollow, like stone, ancient statues with pupilless eyes. His entire body seemed petrified, though only Shirley and I could sense it. Before I could speak, Shirley burst from the room, clutching a page scrawled with cities: Los Angeles, Mexico City, Paris. He's circling the globe, he panted. Starting here, moving east, Asia, America, Africa, and now he's back in China. Closer. Closer. We spent the day poring over the albums. Our picture men had traced a latitude line around the world, their petrification worsening with each mile. By the time they re-entered China, their eyes were fully lifeless. Panic took root. We avoided all images, but he haunted us, on discarded flyers, classmates' magazines, even textbook margins. Shirley deteriorated faster. At his private school, images were unavoidable. Within weeks, he was hospitalized, deemed mentally unstable. Visiting him was a farce. His mother, red-eyed, led me to his room. Shirley sat motionless, facing a wall, until we were alone. Then he turned, eyes blazing. "Faked it," he whispered. "Only here, no pictures. No him." I envied his escape. At home, my parents watched me like a bomb about to detonate. On my 18th birthday, the trap sprung. A family gathering. My sister arrived with her new boyfriend. Him. The picture man, now flesh, stood in our living room. Olive-shaped mold, stone-cut eyes. He reached to shake my hand. I bolted. Days on the streets followed. Hunger, filth, despair. I fled to my uncle, who betrayed me, summoning my family, and him. "Why oppose me?" the picture man asked, gripping my wrist. His touch was cold, heavy. As he stepped through me, a millennia of weight crushed my bones. In the bathroom mirror, I saw it, tiny stones flecking my eyes, shoulders sagging. At 18, the cycle completed. He married my sister. I became something else. Years later, on a train, I found my own face in a foreign magazine. A scar on my brow, mine, yet I'd never left the country. I laughed bitterly, shoulders leaden. Glancing at the teenagers around me, I wondered, whose picture man am I now? Solitude. The car navigated through the labyrinth of roads at the city center, passing streams of pedestrians and vehicles. Through the glass window, the people and cars seemed distant. If I reached out to touch them, my hand would only meet the pain, sticky with some unknown residue. It made me think, over all these years, aside from a few familiar faces, most people were like those outside the window, visible yet untouchable. An absurd thought surfaced. What if they don't exist at all? If things or people can't be truly felt, how are they different from a movie? I often drifted into such musings while driving. This time, instinct jerked me to a stop. Daydreamers need that instinct, otherwise, the car might have driven straight to the edge of the world. 4 hours had passed. Ahead lay a small village. A man stood at the entrance, peering hesitantly through the windshield. Stepping out, I glanced around and froze. Surrounded by mountains, the narrow dirt road snaked through a valley like a deep well. The village clung to the road's end, isolated. Zhao Fang. I eyed him. Cropped hair, pale face, slender build, matching the boss's description. Yes. He hurried over. You're Ping. Ready to go. All set. He lifted a travel bag. Need to say goodbye to anyone? No, already did. He smiled shyly. I gestured him into the car. He paused, gazing back at the village. Fields stretched beyond, dotted with dogs, children, and farmers. Laughter drifted faintly. When he noticed me watching, he flushed and ducked inside. I kept quiet. Zhao Fang didn't. Is the company big? Decent. Far from here. How long? 4 hours. That is far. He finally sensed the chill. Leaning over the seat, he asked, "You don't like talking?" No. Why? The question tangled in my mind. Words felt futile. How could language bridge the chasm between souls? Fatigue weighed on me after 7 hours of driving, but explaining it would only yield hollow sympathy. No one could truly share another's weariness. We're all alone, even in crowds. I stayed silent. As we entered the city, Zhao Fang gasped. These skyscrapers, like on TV. I focused on driving. That woman's wearing a strapless dress. I finally snapped, never seen buildings before. Not this tall. His shyness dissolved. I'm 19 and never left my village. Our tallest building had 2 floors. The city's so alive. His chatter oddly revived the stale cityscape for me. At the office, I led Zhao Fong to the boss. The moment they met, their online personas collided. The boss, Desert Wanderer, shook hands with Peach Spring Farmer. They'd bonded over half a year of existential chats. The boss had insisted on hiring Zhao Fong, a first. Zhang Ping, stay, the boss said. He's our planner. The only one here who gets me. The words jolted me. I'd never considered our chats meaningful. We talked. All three agreed, loneliness was inescapable. The boss felt like a lone tree in a desert, people mere grains of sand. Zhao Fong said only his village felt warm, the outside world was icy. Theories circled but led nowhere. Before leaving, I gave Zhao Fong a tour. Colleagues greeted him warmly, then resumed their own worlds. Newcomers rarely altered the orbit of others' lives. Back in my office, co-workers chatted with Zhao Fong until he excused himself to the restroom. Moments later, a scream erupted. We found him trembling outside. They're dead, he choked. Everyone, no pulse, no breath. We opened the door. The bustling office ignored us. Dead? I mocked. Very lively corpses. Zhao Fong gaped, hearing the noise for the first time. Red-faced, he muttered, I'll check again. He left. We waited. Another scream. Then the phone rang. Look outside, a distorted voice shrieked. The whole city's dead. Only we're left. We're alive, my colleague giggled. Just us. The line went dead. Outside the window, the city pulsed on, unaware of the ghost in our midst. Witnessing death. Lily was about to tease him again, but old Zhao and I stopped her. Zhao Fang's state had gone beyond simple joking. He genuinely believed the city was devoid of life. Though skeptical, I instinctively glanced out the window. The streets below teemed with cars and people. Not a single corpse in sight. As I stepped closer to the window, Zhao Fang's voice crackled through the phone again, now trembling with tears. They're alive again. What's happening? Stay calm. Where are you? I asked. In the boss's office, he rasped, his voice like rusted wire. Desert Wanderer, he's dead too. Don't move. I'm coming. Old Zhao and I rushed to the CEO's office. When the door opened, Zhao Fang stood there, nearly unrecognizable, his face gaunt, eyes wild with terror. Where's Boss Shah? I asked. Dead, he whispered, pointing behind him. You're the dead one, Boss Shah boomed, rising from his chair, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Zhao Fang jolted as if electrocuted. You weren't breathing. Boss Shah frowned. What's going on? Old Zhao nudged past Zhao Fang. Let's talk privately. No. Zhao Fang clung to me. The dead are everywhere outside. I dragged him back to our office. Lily handed him water. He clutched the cup like a lifeline, muttering about corpses and unanswered 911 calls. Old Zhao eventually returned, signaling me to see Boss Sha. As I left, Zhao Fang lunged after me, screaming. He gripped my arm, trembling violently. He insists you're surrounded by the dead, Boss Sha sighed later. We're sending him home. You'll drive him. Zhao Fang refused anyone else. Night fell as we left the city. He scanned the darkness obsessively until we entered the mountains. They die when you're not looking, he said suddenly, calm now. Behind us, in the shadows, they freeze. Even old Zhao turned to stone when we were alone. I kept driving. The headlights clawed at the blackness. You're trapped in a city of ghosts, he murmured. Stay here. It's safe. His village glowed warmly. At his home, family greeted us with concern but no questions. After dinner, Zhao Fang pulled me outside. Watch, he said, re-entering the house. Moments later, he burst back, breathless. They're alive. Really alive. We stood under the stars. He pointed to a distant cottage. A girl lives there. His voice softened. I said nothing. Crickets sang in the fields. For now, his world held no corpses, only the fragile peace of home. The city lives for you. The bond between Zhao Fang and Bian, the girl next door, was a classic tale of childhood sweethearts. Bian, as Zhao Fang described her, possessed a beauty worthy of poetry, delicate features that could fill pages. His nostalgic immersion in memories of her and their village life wasn't just about affection, it stemmed from the jarring contrast between the city's horrors and the village's serenity, magnifying his appreciation for home. Despite the chaos, the day ended peacefully. We chatted past midnight before retreating to his room. 2 beds awaited, one by the window with fresh quilts, another a foldable cot. His sister-in-law reminded us of the thermos before we collapsed into sleep. But habits shape fate. My early rising unraveled everything. At 7 a.m., I leaned on the windowsill. Dawn mist veiled the fields, villagers frozen in mid-action, a man mid-swing with a hoe, another bent over a sapling, a third stretching backward. Not a sound, no roosters, dogs, or insects. Silence so absolute I tapped the window to check my ears. Then, movement. As Zhao Fang stirred awake, noise erupted, chickens clucked, voices chattered. Yet outside, the villagers remained motionless. Sound without motion, like a glitching film. Panicked, I shook Zhao Fang awake. By the time he looked, the scene had reset, villagers moved naturally again. At breakfast, I barely tasted the food. Leaving abruptly, I followed Zhao Fang to the gate. His father and brother stood behind him, stuck mid-lean as he struggled with the latch. Behind me, his mother and sister-in-law froze, dishes in hand, lifeless. Then, like puppets reanimated, they jerked back to life. I dragged Zhao Fang outside, breathless. It's true. They die when unseen. Skeptical, he refused until I filmed it, villagers freezing as he turned away, reviving under his gaze. Even Biyun, caught mid-smile, crystallized on camera. Are we the only real ones? He rasped. Maybe. My city thrived only when I watched his village post for him. Two living anchors in a world of shadows. We parted reluctantly. He couldn't leave his scripted paradise, I couldn't bear mine. Back in the city, crowds swarmed, vibrant, breathing ghosts. My skin prickled with dread. Alone, yet never truly solitary. The world hummed, but its heart beat only where we looked. Prophecy. The creak of an opening window jolted Zijuan. She dropped the hide she'd been sewing and scrambled barefoot to the attic, frantically sorting through keys. Their metallic clatter echoed her panic. Finding the silver key at last, she flung open the door, only to find the room empty. Leaning out the window, she spotted her sister's bone hairpin glinting through the bushes below. "Jia," she shouted. "Come back." Zifen glanced up briefly before hastening her pace. Zijuan tore downstairs, laced her straw sandals, and hitched her skirt with a hide cord. In the shed, she grabbed a crystal vial still 3/4 full of crimson liquid. Securing it at her waist, she charged after the fading jasmine scent marking her sister's trail. Over hills and streams she pursued, finally catching Zifen standing rigid before a cottage. "What are you doing?" Zijuan panted. Zifen's stone-cold gaze fixed on the house. After a weighted pause, she marched forward. Zijuan thrust the vial at her. "Drink this." The vial clattered to the ground. As Zijuan retrieved it, Zifen called out hoarsely to approaching villagers, "This house will collapse." Zijuan buried her face in her hands. The men chuckled. "Not this again," one sneered. Zifen turned away, plucking flowers as mocking laughter trailed them. "Why must you always speak ill?" Zijuan crushed leaves in her fist. "Truth needs no permission," Zifen replied, weaving her flower crown. That night, alone in their bark-walled home, Zijuan stirred poison into the soup. When Zifen drank, her voice died mid-warning about young Luohua drowning. Vision struck them both, a boy slipping beneath river currents. Zifen's soundless lips shaped Luohua. Trapped by guilt, Zijuan raced barefoot through thorns to the boy's home, leaf-wrapped feet bleeding. Prophecy's weight pressed urgent, whether curse or gift, silence couldn't stop fate's tide. Destiny. All right. Whether the vision was real or not, she couldn't just ignore it. Luohua was a chubby, adorable kid. Zijuan didn't want him to die like that. Luohua's parents weren't home, they were out working in the fields, leaving the boy alone. Just as in the vision, when Zijuan rushed to the riverside, she saw Luohua wobbling out of his house with a small wooden toy bucket, heading unsteadily toward the water. "Luohua, what are you doing?" Zijuan darted forward. "Fetch him, Wawa," the boy lisped. "Why fetch water?" You'll drown if you go near the river. For Mama and Papa. They're tired. Luo said earnestly. Don't bother. Let's play instead. Zijuan grabbed his hand, but he shook her off. I gotta fetch Wawa. Luo puffed out his cheeks, radiating the solemn determination of someone undertaking a great mission. Fine, fine. I'll do it for you. Reluctantly, Zijuan snatched the bucket from him. She hauled over a dozen trips until the water vat in Luohua's house was full. The boy hopped around her, shouting directions. Done. Now play with me. Zijuan asked, massaging her aching back. She'd never carried so much water before, her body felt alien. Okay, Luohua granted magnanimously. Who wants to play with a snot-nosed brat anyway? Zijuan cursed inwardly as she molded mud figures with him. Luohua's mother was the worst, 7 kids. No wonder they needed such a massive vat. Her arms felt like lead. By dusk, crimson clouds streaked the sky. When Luohua's parents returned, Zijuan dragged the boy, still building his mud fortress, to the adults. Luohua wanted to fetch water earlier. I filled your vat so he wouldn't drown. Ah. Thank you. The parents beamed, promising never to leave him alone again. Zijuan trudged home, satisfied. Even if the vision was real, it can't happen now, right? A gust of wind erased her smile. It carried a familiar, cloying fragrance. A kaleidoscopic shadow flickered through the trees. Sis, she shouted, chasing the silhouette. Her sister Zifan was sprinting toward the river. Still voiceless, Zifan waved her slender arms in the gathering dark, desperate to warn someone, but no one understood. Sis. Blood roared in Zijuan's ears. Terror clawed her throat as she lunged for her sister's fish-slippery arm. Zifan twisted free. From the side, Zijuan saw her sister's lips move. Luohua's going to die. The night wind raised goosebumps. Stop it. Go home. Zijuan yanked Zifan's hand. They reached Luohua's yard. The boy stood with adults, gaping at the sisters. What's the mad girl babbling now? Luohua's uncle sneered. A crowd gathered. Zifan shook Zijuan's arm fiercely, demanding she speak. Zijuan stayed silent. Luohua won't die. It's just a vision. A soft plop echoed from the river. Ripples spread across the glassy surface, nothing else. Luohua's going to die. Zifan shrieked suddenly. The crowd froze. Zijuan burned with shame. The boy stood right there. Her gaze darted to where he'd been. Empty. Her heart plummeted. No sign of the chubby child anywhere. Where's Luohua? Her voice cracked. Panic erupted. Following the sisters' haunted stairs toward the river, the crowd held its breath. Luohua's father inched forward. Through crystalline water, he saw his son nestled among the weeds. Before grief could explode, Zijuan became a sphere again, floating in her inner cosmos. She saw Zifan beaten with clubs, blood like sunset staining a solemn hall. She screamed. The spell broke. Wails and curses erupted. Someone grabbed Zifan's hair, dragging her down. Fists and stones rained. Zifan covered her head, silent. Pushed aside, Zijuan's throat clogged. More warm rubies splattered her hand, blood. She finally woke, shrieking, "Stop! Don't hit her!" She clawed through the mob, leaves and skirt tearing, taking a blow to the ribs before shielding her sister. "What did you see?" Zifan demanded through swollen lips, one eye sealed shut. Zijuan hesitated. "Tell them." Zifan barked. "It's the only way. I saw, they killed you." The words unleashed a flood. Zifan smiled faintly before fainting. The crowd recoiled. Weapons clattered down. "Your sister's evil. Her curses come true," Luohua's father spat, walking away. "No." Zijuan wanted to explain the vision. He was gone. She shook Zifan, no response. Night deepened. A red lantern glowed downhill, Antstone's house. The villagers called Antstone heartless. But she was their father's sister. Would she help? Dragging Zifan's limp form, Zijuan staggered to the crimson glow. Antstone opened the door. "Knew this would happen," she muttered, eyeing the bloodied girls. She cleaned Zifan's wounds dispassionately. "She'll live. But never speak again." What? Throats ruined. Pity and relief warred in Zijuan, no more hated prophecies. "I warned her," Antstone crunched pickled radish. "Our family's girls all see things." She offered a slice. Zijuan chewed mechanically. Thought they were delusions. But the visions become real unless spoken. A curse, speak and get blamed, stay silent and let doom unfold. Antstone tapped her chest. Found the answer, stone. Stone. Ripping her shirt open, Antstone revealed a rocky sternum. No pain. No joy. Like stone. She pointed at Zifan. She refused. Said she'd imagine her heart was stone. Fool. Want one? Zijuan stared. Think carefully. Moonlight crawled. Hours passed. Suddenly, vision engulfed her, graves bursting, ghouls devouring the village. You saw. Antstone asked. Zijuan nodded. The great disaster. Will you tell? Tell. Stay silent. Become stone. Agony split her soul. You tell them. You're stone-hearted. Not my problem. Zijuan hated the radish stench, stone-cold refusal. Zifan couldn't speak. Only she remained. Speak. Stay silent. Turn to stone. Her gaze flicked to the rock on the table. The choice tore her apart. The ordeal after falling behind. It was a cold, gloomy afternoon. The world seemed soaked in a pallid haze, everything unnervingly still. From his window facing the street, Su Feng occasionally glimpsed pedestrians drifting past like ghosts. A gaunt figure emerged from the far end of the road. At first, it was just a black silhouette. As it drew closer, Su Feng recognized it as a woman. Closer still, familiar. He squinted. Before he could place her, she halted beneath his window. Su Feng. Hey. He forced a smile. Who is this? Her voice tugged at his memory. Su Feng. She repeated, hollow-eyed. Where you headed? He still couldn't recall her name. She stared mournfully, silent. Awkwardness thickened. Studying her, Su Feng noted her paper-white skin stretched taut, black clothes clinging like a second epidermis. The fabric strained with each shallow breath, as though her ribs might rupture. Stranger still, an eerie sense of expansion emanated from her emaciated frame. Something writhed beneath that black sheath, prickling his spine with ice. You don't recognize me? Her fingers grazed her sunken cheek. Feng Hui. Feng Hui. He failed to mask his shock. What happened? You're skeletal. Skeletal. She clawed at her arms frantically. No, I've swollen, haven't I? Tell me I've swollen. Swollen. You're a damned stick insect. 2 weeks ago at the company retreat, Feng Hui had been plump and boisterous. Now this cadaverous stranger stood before him. Yet her features, undeniably hers. How'd you waste away like this? She trembled, eyes darting. Suddenly she leaned in, reeking of sour fermentation. Let me in. Please. Her desperation infected him. His throat tightened as he nodded. She vanished from the window. Seconds later, frantic knocking. He opened the door to her darting inside, slamming it shut. Tea, he offered. She paced like a caged animal. Alone here? Yes. Feng Hui inspected every room, peered under beds, flung open closets. Su Feng snapped the wardrobe shut. What are you doing? Truly alone. Her pupils dilated. Believe what you want. Her stench, rotting compost and panic, churned his stomach. Regret seeped in. This gaunt lunatic shouldn't be here. After securing the grimy windows, Feng Hui collapsed opposite him. The dimmed light etched her face in shadow. She opened her mouth, hesitated, as the reek intensified. Well. Su Feng flipped through a magazine, avoiding her stare. Silence. Her gaze bored into him. Just as he prepared to eject her, Feng Hui jerked violently. She clutched her right flank, fingers arched like claws containing some squirming mass. Not pain, terror. Her palms cupped in invisible horror. What's wrong? She shook her head violently. The bulge beneath her hands swelled visibly. Su Feng stood. Let me see. No. I can't, she backpedaled, lips bloodless. He wrestled her hands aside. A rice bowl-sized protrusion throbbed beneath her shirt, alive, inflated. The black fabric strained. Su Feng recoiled. Feng Hui sagged, defeated. I don't know. Tentatively, he touched the warmth. Human flesh, hers. Before he could process, her wrist erupted, a pea-sized lump ballooning to ping-pong proportions. The trick, she shrieked. Remember, 2 weeks ago, when I wandered off with Du Yulan, Jiang Chun, Shihua. Su Feng nodded. The memory surfaced, their haggard return, Du Yulan's sudden illness, post-retreat. Now Feng Hui's transformation. Even as she spoke, the grotesque swellings deflated. The wrist lump vanished entirely. Abruptly, Feng Hui bolted. Su Feng gave chase, but she dissolved into the gray streets. Later, calls to her boyfriend Yu Shuoyang revealed nothing. Du Yulan's phone rang unanswered. Next morning, Yu Shuoyang cornered Su Feng at work, sweat sheen and twitchy. Saw Feng Hui last night. She's wrong. Said she'd die if I told. Their exchange shattered as Du Yulan burst in, Shihua's dead. Yu Shuoyang turned cadaverous. How? Sudden illness. Last night. As co-workers pooled condolence money, Yu Shuoyang sat paralyzed. Su Feng approached. What's eating you? The man jolted. Nothing. He fled, mirroring Feng Hui's panicked exit. Su Feng stared at the empty chair. Whatever malignancy had consumed Feng Hui now spread its roots through them all. A bizarre death. As these thoughts swirled, Du Yulan passed by. Su Feng casually asked, Du Yulan, do you know what's happened to Feng Hui lately? No, she snapped, the reply clipping the end of his question. Her haste piqued his suspicion. Why'd she lose so much weight? He pressed. I don't know. She quickened her pace. Su Feng blocked her path. Her eyes darted before settling on the floor. You've lost weight too, he persisted. And that pneumonia you had, what really happened? Pneumonia, she stammered. That's why I'm thin. What about Shihua? Su Feng pressed. Feng Hui mentioned that during the trip, you all wandered off. What happened? The words spilled out before he fully grasped their implication. Of the 4 who'd strayed, Feng Hui, Du Yulan, Jiang Chun, Shihua, 3 were now afflicted. Only Jiang Chun's fate remained unknown. Nothing happened. Du Yulan fled. Back in his office, Su Feng dialed Jiang Chun's number, disconnected. A call to his workplace confirmed the worst, dead. A week ago. 4 out of 4. Jiang Chun and Shi Hua dead, Gong Hui and Du Yuan wasting away. When the office organized condolences for Shi Hua, Su Feng volunteered, dragging a twitchy Yu Shuoyang along. At the funeral home, Shi Hua's corpse lay shrouded. Yu Shuoyang's insistence on viewing the body puzzled Su Feng, until the widow finally relented. Lifting the shroud revealed Shi Hua's waxen face. At first glance, normal. Then, his nose, mouth, the widow whispered. Su Feng leaned closer. The lips, seamlessly fused. Nostrils, sealed shut. He suffocated, she said. Watching TV, he suddenly clutched his throat. By the time paramedics came, her voice broke. After that trip, he kept saying he'd harmed Jiang Chun. When Jiang Chun died, he knew he was next. Su Feng's mind reeled. Visiting Jiang Chun's family confirmed the pattern, identical death. As he walked away, a white Santana's taillights vanished around a corner, Yu Shuoyang's car. The unraveling. Days passed. Du Yuan regained weight, but Yu Shuoyang withered rapidly. His clothes strained against sudden bulges. When questioned, he'd mutter, "Can't say, can't hurt Feng Hui," before fleeing in a stench of rot. The climax came during a sales meeting. Mid-presentation, Yu Shuoyang's head ballooned grotesquely, skin stretched translucent over swelling tissue. "My head," he gargled, staggering to a mirror. "I'll talk. I'll tell everything." As the words spilled, the inflation reversed, his skull deflating like a punctured bladder. The room froze. The curse's mechanism revealed itself, silence bred growth, confession brought release. Yet each admission doomed another. Su Feng finally understood, their tourist detour had awakened something ancient. A pact of silence, broken only by sacrificial speech. Feng Hui's visit to Shi Hua transferred the affliction, Shi Hua's death passed it to Jiang Chun. Now Yu Shuoyang, by speaking, had marked his own end, and perhaps Su Feng's next. As colleagues screamed, Su Feng slipped away. The stench of decay trailed him, whether from Yu Shuoyang's dissolving flesh or his own impending fate, he couldn't tell. Some curses, once spoken, could never be contained. Speak it and die. After a long silence, Su Feng whispered, "Yu Shuoyang, you're not unwell, are you?" Yu Shuoyang smiled bitterly. "Will you listen?" "To what?" "Everything." Their cryptic exchange baffled colleagues. Yu Shuoyang insisted on speaking to one person only. Su Feng followed him to a locked office. "Talk," Su Feng urged. "You asked for this," Yu Shuoyang said heavily. "Just as I asked Feng Hui." But she could have refused. "So can I." Su Feng's patience frayed. "I loved her," Yu Shuoyang rasped. "Didn't want to harm her. Or you." He began his tale. The curse's origin. During the ill-fated trip, the group had stumbled upon a dead-end alley. A blue-clad vendor sat behind a sign, "Secrets sold here." "What's for sale?" Jiang Chun had laughed. "A secret." The vendor's smile unnerved them. "1 yuan." Amidst jeers, Jiang Chun tossed a coin. The vendor whispered in his ear. "Remember my words," the vendor warned before leaving. Moments later, he collapsed, lips fused, nostrils sealed. Dead from suffocation. Back with the group, Jiang Chun and Shihua refused to reveal the secret. "What did he say?" Su Feng interjected. Yu Shuoyang's voice dropped. The vendor told Jiang Chun, "If you speak these words, I die." Understanding dawned. Each disclosure killed the previous speaker. Jiang Chun told Shihua, "Vendor died." Shihua told Feng Hui, "Jiang Chun died." Feng Hui told Yu Shuoyang, "Shihua died." Now Yu Shuoyang's confession doomed Feng Hui. "Why tell me?" Su Feng cried. Yu Shuoyang's smile was ghastly. "You'll see. The rot within." Feng Hui's corpse surfaced days later, same suffocation. Su Feng now bore the curse. His skin tightened, foul odors seeped from swelling lumps. The compulsion to speak gnawed like maggots. Yu Shuoyang watched him, terror-stricken. "How long can you hold?" One midnight, Su Feng fled his apartment. A mutilated beggar writhed ahead, flesh erupting in putrid bursts. Du Yulan emerged from shadows. Told him, she nodded at the beggar. No tongue. No hands. Safest vessel. Su Feng recoiled. The beggar's chest ballooned, popped, another festering hole. "Choose wisely," Du Yulan said. "Someone who'll never speak." Su Feng ran. The street stretched empty. Then, a silhouette. A drunk? Insomniac? He lunged, words already spilled. The figure turned. Click. A phone camera flashed. A vlogger's grin. "Dude. What's your deal?" The secret surged. Su Feng's lips parted. Somewhere, Yu Shuoyang's neck began to swell. The lone building. The lone building stood in the suburbs, isolated not by design but by circumstance. Surrounded by single-story homes built by local farmers, its 6 floors loomed conspicuously. At dusk, under the setting sun, its elongated shadow stretched across barren fields, amplifying its eerie solitude. I never understood why no other buildings had been erected on the vast empty lot around it. Perhaps its very existence was a warning. But practicality trumped unease. The rent was dirt cheap. My apartment was on the 4th floor of Unit 1. Despite its long vacancy, the walls were freshly painted, the floors pristine. Only the furniture showed age, though fully functional. A TV, fridge, and AC stood ready. I moved in without hassle, congratulating myself on the bargain. The landlord called minutes after I settled in. "Well, satisfied?" His chuckle braided, a stark contrast to his stern demeanor during the lease signing. "It's perfect." "Why so cheap?" I pressed. "Good, good." He hung up abruptly. Nightfall revealed the building's true oddity. By day, neighbors passed like ghosts, faces frozen, eyes averted. Not a word exchanged, not even among families. Yet by night, voices surged through the metal pipe in my bedroom wall, conducting whispers like a perverse intercom. New tenants a man. 8 instant noodles for dinner, extra spicy. Threw away a pen worth 15 yen and 87 cents. They knew everything. My shredded drafts, pajama patterns, even my newly acquired curtain drawing habit. Paranoia gnawed at me. Were they peering through my windows? But the fields outside lay empty. I resolved to unmask them. The silent neighbor. My target, the woman downstairs. Mid-20s, dressed in frilly sleeves, she played the ingenue. Her schedule mirrored mine, 7 a.m. out, 7 p.m. in. What's the time? I ambushed her one morning. She stared past me, descending the stairs like a sleepwalker. Undeterred, I escalated. "Good morning. Need to borrow soy sauce." I'd knocked relentlessly, met only by silence. Yet the thrill of pursuit consumed me, not attraction, but obsession. Meanwhile, the nocturnal chorus dissected my life. He's stalking the girl. Wasted 8 yen on a taxi to tail her. Their omniscience terrified me. The trash revelation. One morning, doubling back for forgotten documents, I witnessed it. Elderly neighbors huddled over my trash bag. They donned gloves, wielded tweezers, cataloging my discarded CD, stained shirt, leftover noodles. One snapped photos, another scribbled notes. A forensic ritual. Horror dawned. My trash was their dossier. Every coffee stain, every receipt, a clue. They've built profiles not through words, but waste. The pipe's nocturnal gossip wasn't eavesdropping, it was reporting. By day, they were mutes. By night, analysts cross-referencing data from my garbage. My life, a specimen under their microscope. But why? The answer came weeks later, etched on a crumpled note in the communal dumpster, their sacred archive. Subject 24, male, 28, high paranoia. Ritualizes privacy. Recommend Phase 2 observation. We were all lab rats. The lone building, a human zoo. Landlord as zookeeper. Cheap rent bought compliance. Silence ensured containment. That night, I packed hastily. At the threshold, I glanced back. Dozens of pale faces pressed against darkened windows, tracking my exit. No farewells. In the lone building, goodbyes were redundant, they'd already written my epilogue. Snooping. I held my breath in the bushes until they'd bagged every scrap, scrubbed the scene clean, and vanished. Fear glued me in place. If they discovered I'd witnessed their ritual, what then? This wasn't mere eccentricity. Colleagues had warned against moving here, muttering about bad vibes. Now I understood. The lone building was a hive of watchers, and I'd become their specimen. Police dismissed it as paranoia. Fine. I'd play their game. The art of espionage. Dawn found me at my window, tallying departures. 50 workers filed out, leaving the vulnerable, retirees, children, the unemployed. My target, Bubble Sleeve's neighbor, a reclusive bachelor. His apartment was a vault, sealed windows, light-proof curtains. The entire building followed suit. Frustrated, I pivoted to Bubble Sleeve's unit. Guilt prickled, this felt invasive, but necessity overrode ethics. Same fortress. Defeated, I loitered outside as residents returned. Their sidelong glances confirmed it, I was the anomaly. Nightfall unveiled the building's true horror, not a single lit window. Darkness devoured the structure whole. Inside, smells of cooking wafted, meals prepared blindly. The image of spectral hands groping through blackness chased me upstairs. Home again, I flicked every light on. My bed crunched, cement debris. Again. These fragments appeared daily, dismissed as renovation remnants. But tonight, beneath a loosened wall patch, I found them, coin-sized holes peppering the plaster. Cold drafts whispered through, carrying voices. The whispering walls. By 10 p.m., the pipes erupted. Gossip flooded my room, except now, I recognized the bachelor's rasp. Subject 24 purchased rat poison today. Hid it under bathroom sink. Chills crawled my spine. They knew. Always knew. Confrontation. Next morning, I baited them. 2 trash bags placed conspicuously. As predicted, the elderly committee emerged. Gloves, cameras, evidence bags. I ambushed the straggler. Why snoop through my trash? Stone-faced silence. I leaned in, conspiratorial. Know what your upstairs neighbor's hiding. A blink. A twitch. Got him. Latest Reader's Digest, I hissed. Page 19. Sweat beaded his brow. What about it? Invisible ink, I lied. Blacklight reveals everything. His controlled crap. Where'd you get a blacklight? The dam broke. For 20 minutes, he spewed secrets, tenant affairs, hidden debts, illicit trades. Each confession punctuated by glances at my trash bags. Your turn, he panted. What's on page 19? I smiled. Subscription barcode. Track to your mailbox. His face drained. The game had rules, and I'd just broken them. That night, the pipes fell silent. At 3 a.m., footsteps creaked outside my door. Multiple pairs. They'd come to reclassify their specimen, from observer to threat. The holes in my walls stared like 100 black eyes. I stared back, blacklight in hand. Let them watch. Holes in the wall. I glanced around. It's not safe here. Let's talk inside your place. The moment the words left my mouth, I knew I'd erred. His face stiffened, defenses slamming up. Before I could react, he bolted into his apartment and locked the door. As I turned to leave, something glinted on the floor, his notebook. The very one he'd used to document my trash. I snatched it and fled upstairs. The ledger of secrets. Cross-legged on my bed, I pored over the notebook. A treasure trove of voyeurism. Dozens of entries detailed residents' lives. Asterisk, subject 37 prefers salted fish over spicy. Nightly sleep-talking reveals guilt over embezzlement. Asterisk, my skin crawled. How? Pinhole cameras. The walls coin-sized holes. I ripped off the masking patches. Cold drafts whispered through the voids. On a hunch, I funneled an entire water bottle into one hole. It drained endlessly, like a bottomless well. The flood. A crash from downstairs. My neighbor's door burst open, a torrent gushing out. Furniture bobbed in the current. Residents swarmed like ants, photographing floating debris, scribbling notes. No one helped the drenched man salvaging his belongings. Where's your wife and child? I shouted over the din. He froze, then charged inside. We followed, into a labyrinth. His walls gaped with fist-sized holes. Deeper in the building's bowels, we found them, a woman and infant, drowned in an underground tunnel. My floodwater had breached their hiding place. The neighbor stared blankly at the corpses. Then, with eerie cheer, he began digging a grave. Third-floor woman's red pajamas, he giggled as we shoveled. Mouse hole near the collar. I laughed too, the madness was contagious. The hive. We crawled through the tunnel network. Every apartment was honeycombed. Residents scurried like rats, peeping through wall holes, exchanging secrets in hissed whispers. A silent economy of surveillance, your shame for mine. I became adept. Dug new tunnels. Compiled dossiers. Hid my findings, though they were always found. The game consumed us. Words faded. First to lip reading, then to glances. Eyes darting in the dark, did you see? The banker's mistress. The teacher's gambling debts. The stench of truth. Weeks later, rot seeped through the walls. The buried mother and child announced themselves. Police came. They found the tunnels, the notes, our hollow-eyed tribe. At the psychiatric hospital, we sit in perfect silence. Meals arrive. Orderlies take notes. Through barred windows, we trade glances, fresh secrets fermenting. Tonight, the janitor's keys jingle differently. The night nurse's collar is buttoned wrong. We smile. New walls to breach. Debt. Some people's words should never be believed. This was told to me by the man sitting across from me. He was my college classmate. We hadn't seen each other in 5 years since graduation, and when he suddenly called out to me on the street, I didn't recognize him at first glance. His transformation was staggering. His once tall, upright frame now seemed shriveled, as if pickled in brine, his skin sagging without skeletal support, wrinkles pooling into soft folds. His eyelids drooped, his mouth hung slack, arms dangling limply at his sides, knees slightly bent, as though his entire body might collapse at any moment. "What happened to you?" I gasped after finally recognizing him. He replied weakly, "Come have tea with me. I'll explain everything." At the tea house, he ignored his cup, chain-smoking while staring at the floor. I waited patiently. Outside the window, the afternoon light faded to dusk as crowds flowed by. "Life is so unpredictable," he suddenly sighed, pointing at the streetlights flickering on. "Time races by. Everything changes before you even notice." "What happened?" I pressed. "I don't know," he shook his head. "It started 2 months ago." Here is his account. 2 months ago, as I was leaving for work, my wife and son were eating breakfast. At the door, I heard her scream our son's name. I rushed back to find him choking, eyes rolling back. I told her to call an ambulance while performing the Heimlich maneuver. I'd saved 2 choking customers at my restaurant before. But minutes passed, his face turned blue, his breathing stopped. The damn object wouldn't dislodge. My wife ran to a nearby clinic while I kept trying. By the time she returned with a doctor, the ambulance finally arrived, too late. The driver claimed a flat tire delayed them. The clinic doctor had been trapped in an elevator with my wife. A few fatal minutes. As if heaven itself wanted my son dead. The autopsy revealed the culprit, an ice cube from my whiskey set. The doctor said if I'd applied heat instead of the Heimlich. But it didn't matter anymore. Days later, I woke to find my wife face down, smothered by her pillow. Cold. Rigid. The coroner said sleep apnea and bad posture conspired to kill her. Then my parents, brothers, sister, all died in freak accidents. My sister, struck by a meteorite. A lottery-worthy death. I consulted a fortune teller. He took one look at me, packed his things, and fled. When I chased him, he had a heart attack. Others blamed feng shui, my cursed birth chart. Nothing worked. Now I'm alone, waiting for death. After draining his cold tea, he gave a bleak smile. I've got nothing left. He left, but through the window, I saw him eagerly drag another acquaintance into a cafe. Desperate to share his tale. Days later, at a college reunion, classmates fell silent when I mentioned Shaolu. Later, Dawei pulled me aside. I might know why, he said, lighting a cigarette. Shaoli's been borrowing money for years, fake reasons, empty vows. When I lent him cash, he swore, if I default, may my sister be meteor smashed. Who says that? But today, you said his sister actually. We stormed Xiao Li's mansion. Amidst the squalor, Belway confronted him. Xiao Li confessed, he'd visited a shadowy old man who transferred debts into flesh. Now, repaying meant flaying himself alive. As creditors arrived, each returned payment tore chunks from Xiao Li's body. Horrified, they forgave his debts, but too late. Days later, Xiao Li was found in pieces, his head crushed by a road roller. The moral? That old man didn't erase debts, he converted them into lives. Repay money. Now you repay with blood. I shivered, remembering the 5 yuan I owed a colleague. Some truths are universal. Debts always collect. In coins, or in flesh. Overtime. Night fell once more. As darkness enveloped the city, lights dimmed on every floor of Yinhua Tower, except the 12th. The 12th floor still blazed brightly. They were working overtime. Huali Software, located on the 12th floor, was a moderately renowned company where overtime was the norm. From the vice president down to the typists, everyone toiled until midnight. Only one person never stayed late. When Han, driving his silver-white sedan past the tower, rolled down his window and glanced up at the glowing 12th floor. The sight of those lights sparked a smug grin. His employees were working 16 hours a day, yet he paid them for only 8. No overtime compensation. This unwritten rule had persisted for years. Officially, Huali never mandated overtime, but employees knew better than to leave early. To Wen Han, their late hours were voluntary, absolving him of responsibility. They're paid to devote every ounce of energy to the company. He'd lecture new hires. Only after joining would they grasp the grim reality behind those words. As when Han withdrew his gaze, the woman beside him leaned in, whispering, "What's so interesting?" Watching them work, he replied, starting the car. "Why aren't you working overtime?" she teased. "Work should enrich life, not enslave it," he quipped, kissing her cheek. "Wow, you really know how to live," she murmured, admiration glinting in her eyes. He smirked and drove toward a bustling night market, a local gem unknown to tourists, where fresh mountain fish swam in tanks until cooked to perfection. Parking curbside, he draped an arm around the woman's waist, savoring the night, until his hand froze mid-stride. Ahead sat a woman in a white sundress, leisurely picking at a crab. Her relaxed demeanor outshone even his companion's idleness. When Han stormed over, "Lin Yan," he barked. She looked up, a flicker of panic dissolving into calm. "You've mistaken me for someone else." "Really?" He dialed the office. When Lin Yan's tired voice answered, he hung up, baffled. This doppelganger, identical yet worlds apart from his stern, ponytailed programmer, refused his invitation, vanishing into the night. Days later, at an upscale cafe, when Han spotted Jim Moran, his meek accountant, strolling freely. Confronted, Jin denied his identity with a smirk. When Han's fury mounted, Phone checks confirmed all employees were present, yet doubts gnawed at him. 1 midnight, as the tower's clock struck 12, the 12th floor lights blinked out. No one emerged. Investigating, when Han found empty offices, warm computers, absent workers. Security footage showed staff leaving nightly, yet he'd never witnessed it. Paranoia crescendoed when he stumbled into a bar filled with his employees, laughing, drinking, utterly transformed. The Lin Yen here wore glamour, Cheng exuded confidence. When Han fled, trembling, a final confrontation revealed the truth. Employees had hired ventriloquist Zhao Xiaohai to mimic their voices during fake overtime. Footage was pre-recorded, security turned blind eyes. The real staff reclaimed their nights, leaving Wen Han spiraling into madness. In the psychiatric ward, Zhao Xiaohai whispered cruelties as Wen Han cowered. Next door, Zhao's sister, a programmer driven insane by overtime, giggled, tugging his hair. Work. Keep working. The employees' rebellion had succeeded. Their unpaid hours ended, but at a cost. One mind shattered, another long lost. As Zhao exited, laughter echoed behind him, a hollow victory in the war against time stolen. The wife's delusion. Dusk approached as I stepped off bus 603, grocery bags in hand, and trudged toward Huaiyuan community. My shadow stretched ahead, each step crushing its outline. Passers-by shot curious glances, a man inching forward like a broken clock. Girls in oversized uniforms whispered, their bangs shadowing eyes that gleamed like ghosts from a J-horror flick. At the gate, an invisible force held me back. I lingered until the security guard peered out, then turned away. Back and forth I paced, arms numb from weight, until a chill seized me. I looked up. There she was, Shen Xiang, my wife, leaning from our 6th floor window. Her face, a sliver of pallor framed by black hair, tracked me like a weather vane. The unlit apartment swallowed her green-clad form. I waved weakly, forcing a smile. Her gaze followed, relentless. Inside, darkness swallowed the living room. Shen Xiang stood at the kitchen window, spine rigid, ankles bone-white below 2 short pajamas. Look what I bought. I chirped, spilling groceries, Linyo's chunky yogurt, her favorite mangoes. Words tumbled out, safe, banal, until her sigh froze my spine. Why didn't you come straight home? Her voice floated, disembodied. I needed to think. About me? No. Snap. A crimson fissure split her chin. Panic surged. Yesterday's yes had birthed identical cracks. No answer spared her. Another one, she murmured. Tears streaked the latticework of wounds as she guided my hand across her face, silk skin over fault lines. Most of these are for you. It began when Shen Xiang traded advertising chaos for a civil servant's stability. Day 1, triumphant. Day 2, trembling at our kitchen table, dissecting conversations like autopsy reports. She's furious, she'd sob over municipal office politics. What could I say? We became code breakers, parsing banal exchanges. Morning. Morning. You're online early. Implied he slacks off, I deduced. Her colleagues' imagined offenses multiplied, a Rorschach test of paranoia. Then came my turn. You sighed at dinner. Her pen scratched accusations. Why? Tired from work. Tired of me. Snap. Red web spread. Our home became a minefield where, how was your day, detonated fresh wounds. Now, as stir-fry sizzles, I steal glances. Shenxiang hums by the window, fissures pulsing like living veins. Some nights I fantasize about shattering that glass, her fragile psyche spilling into the alley below. Yet when her head rests on my chest, I count cracks like constellations. 47. 48. Each a monument to love's slow asphyxiation. The psychiatrist calls it shared psychotic disorder. I call it marriage. Outside, dusk bleeds anew. My shadow waits, patient, inevitable, as I brace for tonight's question. Snap. Always, the snapping. The cracks on her face. That day after work, I was cooking in the kitchen while Shenxiang watched TV. When the food was ready, she walked over and asked, "What did you make today?" "Just this." "See for yourself." After days of arguing, I had no energy left to humor her. My tone was so cold that Shenxiang immediately noticed. Normally, even if my words were harmless, she'd find fault. But now there was real hostility. Her brows furrowed, ready to start another fight, when suddenly, we both heard a soft crack, like an eggshell splitting. A bloody line appeared on Shenxiang's left cheek. "What's wrong with your face?" I leaned in to look. "Don't touch me." She brushed her cheek angrily. "Fine." I pulled my hand back. Crack. Another sound. A fresh cut bloomed near her ear. Now alarmed, I said, "Shenxiang, seriously, look at your face." "What's wrong with my face?" "Why are you making a fuss?" she snapped. Crack. A third gash split her skin. Panicking, I dragged her to the mirror despite her protests. When she saw her reflection, she froze. "What's happening?" "I don't know, maybe a fungal infection." I stammered. "Let's go to the hospital." She turned to leave, but I stopped her. "Specialists aren't available now. Only the emergency room." "So we just wait," she cried. "Maybe, for now." I hesitated. Crack. Another wound. Shenxiang clutched her face, furious. "Wait. Do you even care about me?" The pointless argument erupted again. With every word I spoke, another crack echoed, another bloody line etching into her skin. Finally, I realized the pattern and clamped my mouth shut. The crack stopped. The discovery unnerved me. This wasn't normal. Later, when Shenxiang fell asleep, I whispered to her experimentally. No new cracks appeared. Maybe it was all a coincidence. I drifted into uneasy sleep. Shenxiang lay beside me, her face a web of dozens of crimson gashes. The wounds never healed, staying raw and fresh. The next day, she stayed home, too disfigured to work. Doctors prescribed useless ointments. Over the following days, the cracks multiplied. Despair hollowed her eyes. Under a magnifying glass, the cuts weren't wounds at all, they were fissures, splitting her skin to reveal red flesh beneath. Shenxiang's face seemed ready to shatter. I soon realized, every harsh word from me birthed a new crack. When I confessed this, she glared. You're doing this to me. I bit back rage, arguing would only worsen it. So I tiptoed around her, appeasing her every whim. The cracks slowed but never vanished. Fired from her job, Shenxiang morphed into a ghostly figure, speaking softly, flinching at my words, her fissures weeping silently. One evening, lost in thought, I didn't notice the overflowing sink. Shenxiang's icy breath grazed my neck. What are you thinking? Nothing, I said, scrambling to mop the floor. Crack. You're lying, she whispered. Every reply was a trap. Every word risked another fracture. I learned to whisper, to stay silent, to mold myself into a shadow. But the cracks grew faster. Home became a tomb, leaving each morning felt like rebirth. I wanted to divorce her, but feared what divorce might unleash. Would she split apart? The cracks spread down her body, a lattice of red. Even intimacy became grotesque. My revulsion bred more fissures. Crack. 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 I resolved to kill her. For a week, I played the doting husband. No change. On the 7th day, calm as a surgeon, I returned home. She stood in the dark, face glowing crimson. You're back. You look like a ghost, I said. Crack. A chasm split her cheek. Look in the mirror. You're hideous, I hissed. Crack. A fissure tore from her shoulder to abdomen. She screamed. I've hated you for years, I spat, words tumbling like poison. You did this to yourself. You're pathetic. You. Her body splintered, arms, legs, face, crumbling to dust. I swept the ashes into a bag, tossed them into the night. Relief flooded me. Freedom. At work the next morning, a colleague joked, "Why so happy, sure too." My blood froze. Crack. In the bathroom mirror, a thin red line split my chin.